This is one of those Sundays where, as a minister, I feel there's a sermon overload in this reading. There is so much I could say, but I'll focus us on two simple themes. One, the hiddenness of the kingdom of heaven, and two, the all-encompassing inclusion of the kingdom of heaven. And let's start with that hiddenness. Highlighted here in these parables more clearly than in most other parables, the kingdom of heaven is somehow present, yet hidden in this world. The kingdom, it's like a field that my dad planted, and he goes out to show me what he's accomplished, and I look and I say, all I see is dirt. Good job, Dad. You kept the dirt in the field and didn't bring it into the house. That's a miracle for sure. But then my dad takes me out to the field again after the 4th of July. You know the old saying, knee high by the 4th of July? Well, that's no longer true. By the 4th, there's a field full of 8 to 10 foot tall stalks of corn. What was hidden in the ground in the spring is now so large and so thick that it could hide thousands of humans within its canopy. The kingdom of heaven is like a small seed hidden in the earth. It's like yeast hidden in dough. It's like a treasure hidden in a field. It's like a valuable pearl hidden among a mine full of pearls. It's like a school of fish hidden under the water. The kingdom of heaven is hidden in this world. As Jesus says in Luke's gospel, they will not say, look, here it is, or there it is, for in fact, the kingdom of heaven is among you. We cannot point to it, but it is somehow here among us. And that simple truth has always given me hope. Because there are days when this world looks like hell. There are days when this world looks like pure fun, but fun that's absent of love. There are days when this world looks hopelessly broken. And on those days, I cling to the truth that the kingdom of heaven is here. Even if it's currently hidden from my sight, and its presence will make things better. In seminary, we talked about the inbreaking love of God, the assurance most fully revealed in the cross that heaven is coming to earth, the proclamation by Jesus that the kingdom of heaven is at hand and near, the revelation in the resurrection that the new creation has begun and we have become part of it through our baptisms. And we'd watch for God's sightings, moments where it felt like God was clearly present. Not that we could ever go back and say, here's the kingdom of heaven to someone else, as if that spot was where there was a portal into the kingdom. But like Jacob's ladder, there are moments where we can say, surely the Lord was in this place, and I didn't know it. When my brother-in-law died, and we were all grieving, my mom needed to help my sister deal with all the busyness of death. And so my dad and I took my nephews to the state park to get away. And even though those days were hard days, one of my favorite pictures is this image I took that day of my dad and my nephews splashing in the water in the river, laughing with joy while getting each other wet. Those were hard days. And in the middle of them, there was this moment that made me say, surely the Lord is in this place, and I didn't know it. And as the littles grew, that taste of heaven stuck in my nephew Gabe's throat. And as he'd get on the swings, every time he went up, he'd say, "Hi, Dad." And as he come down, "Bye, Dad." And as he go back up, "Hi, Dad." "Bye, Dad." "Hi, Dad." "Bye, Dad." The kingdom of heaven was as close as a swing ride. I hope my nephew remembers that on the days when it feels like he missed out on so much. But honestly, there's something wrong in all these pictures that I've given you so far. Whether we're talking about Jacob's ladders or Gabe's swings, these God sightings simply miss the mark if we're trying to describe the nature of the in-breaking kingdom of heaven. Because the kingdom of heaven isn't breaking into small spots as if you had to be there to taste it. As if it were only meant to bless Jacob or only meant to bless Gabe. The second theme is the all-encompassing inclusion of the kingdom of heaven. The tiny mustard seed becomes a large shrub that can house all the birds of the air. The pinch of yeast leavens all 60 pounds of dough. The treasure that makes the whole field valuable. The pearl that is worth giving up someone's entire life savings to acquire. The net that catches every kind of fish. Whatever we can say about the kingdom of heaven, it's something that can't be contained. The presence of the kingdom changes everything, not just one moment or one life, but the whole earth. It's like what Paul says in Romans 5. The grace of God and the free gift of the grace of the one man, Jesus Christ, abounded for the many. By the one man's obedience, the many will be made righteous. Or it's like what God says to Abraham, I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. And in you, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Or maybe it's like this website I made. I built a Lutheran insult generator website. Check it out. It's a blast. And when I built it, I messaged 3 trustworthy friends, asking them to simply beta test the website, because I didn't have all the fancy tools that a proper web developer would have, to make sure that everything worked as expected, and to give me any feedback they might have before I launched the site. None of them replied to my message. But instead, 24 hours later, I had over 20,000 views on my site and was being contacted by Concordia Publishing House for copyright infringement. Mind you, I'd sourced everything meticulously, but that's a whole nother story. The kingdom of heaven is like a juicy secret you tell a couple of close friends, and before you know it, the whole world knows your secret. Or I'm sure Jesus would say the kingdom of heaven is like a virus. Jesus was cool with comparing the kingdom to a thief in the night or an unjust judge, so I'm sure he'd tell this one too. The kingdom of heaven is like a virus. It's so small you can't see it, but no matter how hard you try to keep it to yourself and hold on to it, masking and sanitizing and avoiding community, you cannot help but to share it. And through one person catching the virus, it spreads and spreads until the kingdom breaks out in every country around the world, and all people, rich through poor, black through white, young through old, extreme extrovert to extreme introvert, are all exposed to the kingdom and experience the joy that it brings. But all this is maybe too big to picture. So let's shrink it down in scope a little. Instead of trying to imagine the whole world, let's just imagine our little neighborhood here in Tosa and nearby Brookfield and Elm Grove. Just this little Mayfair Park and Fisher Woods and Elm Grove and the little part of Brookfield right over here, maybe representing about 10,000 people. The kingdom of heaven is like the discovery of a precious artifact near the corner of 124th and North. Upon discovering the artifact, an investor comes in and builds an attraction there that brings in tourists from around the world. But tourists want more than one thing when they go somewhere. So to keep the tourism up, the investor uses their income to improve the community. Until continually investing in all aspects of the neighborhood, until everyone living around the attraction now has the best quality of life of anyone in the United States. Even the people living in the low-income retirement apartments now have better life outcomes than those who are independently wealthy in rich retirement communities. You see, the kingdom of heaven shows up in small little things, but it grows so fast that it cannot be contained or hoarded by any one person. The kingdom of heaven is like a church at the corner of 120th and North. At first, maybe 50 or 60 people are gathered together for worship, possibly another 20 online. Nothing special in the grand scheme of things, this group of people right here. But during the service, they receive a little bit of bread and a little bit of wine wrapped in a promise. And as they left church, that promise grew in their hearts until it overflowed into their homes, and then onto the streets and over to the houses of their friends and their neighbors, until one day, without even realizing it, they'd shared that promise with everyone throughout greater Milwaukee. I wonder what that looks like. I mean, in real life, what does that look like? Because God knows the church, and I don't mean Mount Zion. I mean the church as a whole. God knows the church has often seemed like a little bit of good soil surrounded by a thick patch of thorns than it has like a welcoming tree rising above the weeds. I wonder what it looks like for the kingdom of heaven not to be just something we taste here, but something that overflows into out there. I wonder, do you believe that the kingdom of heaven is actually breaking into this world? Have you seen it? Have you tasted it? Have you felt it wash over your skin? I hope you have. And I promise you, it's not that the kingdom of heaven is just showing up here in the sacraments. It's breaking into the world in places you'd never imagine, like a mustard seed or a pinch of yeast. It's arriving in things you'd never expect to see. So open your eyes, because the kingdom of heaven shows up in the oddest and the most unlikely of places. Because you see, the kingdom of heaven is like an execution cross on a tiny hill outside a city in some backwater country. And at first, that cross looks like nothing special. Though the people who see it, it feels like the center of sadness and pain and all the hate and anger of the world. It's a place where things break and are destroyed. But then, suddenly, those broken pieces break the pattern of the world. And instead of life ending in death, death suddenly now leads to life. And the arms that were pierced begin to grow on that cross, wider and wider, encompassing more and more people until they become big enough to wrap around every single person in this world and hold them in the embrace of Christ's love. That's the kingdom of heaven. What more can I tell you? Amen.
Thank you for joining us. Be sure to like if you heard good news and subscribe to stay up to date on the latest message. Peace be with you.